All Eyes on Fishing with Mitch Peterson, Josh Sheldon, and Brad Qualley, leading you to the next level.
Hey everybody, welcome back to All Eyes on Fishing. Before we get started, we want to thank one of our sponsors, PonchoOutdoors.com. They have some great shirts out there. We've talked about it in previous podcasts, and we just want to make sure that the listeners are tagging in on PonchoOutdoors.com.
Oh, you got to check them out. They're awesome shirts. Awesome shirts. They're slick looking. I love the sunglasses cleaner on the inside of the flap.
No, that's pretty
Awesome.
cool. And I like the magnetic pockets.
Yeah.
I didn't think, I was like, what's that all about? But it actually is nice. You're not messing around with that. And I still like the UPF. I love that 50 because I don't have to put sunscreen on. They're lightweight. They're great.
Yeah. Well, and they're coming out with a new style every week. So they just came out with their camo, all camo.
Yes.
That was one of their most popular ones for hunting season. So they came out with an all camo shirt that is ready for hunting season and ready to go. And I wore mine just last week when I went out on the water, and it was great. I mean, it was perfect. It was
I went out
that
on the
right
water
temperature.
and then wore mine to eat because I had to go pick up my wife. And they actually looked nice.
Yeah.
I didn't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're perfect for charter captains and other people. Like if you were to go work at a fishing show, they would be a perfect shirt to wear to a fishing show. They're that nice and they're that comfortable. So
They are nice. So tonight we're going to talk about some stuff that's going on with the fall. So before I get into that, though, because Poncho Outdoors, I forgot about this. If you go onto their site at PonchoOutdoors.com and you order and you use the promo code All Eyes on Fishing, they'll send you a free hat along with your order too.
yep. So make sure you go and order. All Eyes on Fishing.
Yeah, that's right. Josh was pointing at his hat. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. It is cool. It's a great deal. I mean, you get a free hat and you get a nice shirt to go with it. But so, like I was talking about, we had Fall Transition 1 and 2. A lot of correspondence with that. I mean, our email blew up.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. So thanks for all the emails, and we try to get back to them as soon as we can. So I appreciate that. We also had back a little while ago people that were sending in emails regarding their best for the Desensitized podcast that we had. So what they had, so we had some people that talked about live bait. They talked about different stuff that they used when they were kids, and it was awesome reading all the different stuff. And we did pick three winners, mm-hmm. And so we've made contact with a couple of them. One guy left out there to contact us, so send us your stuff because we want to send you that shirt. We have other shirts to order too.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And it's interesting to see the different ideas everybody has about fall fishing and when they take into effect, right?
Yeah.
I was shocked with guys are like, well, we're already doing that now. And then other guys are saying, I've never done that before in my life. What are you talking about? And so it's interesting to see.
And it sounds like right here in Denver, we're mid-September, and they were catching them right here in town, dragging crawlers with jig heads.
Yep. So, I mean, we can still get them here, dragging bait slow on the bottom and still catching fish in 15 to 20 feet of water on gravel bars. And, so we're still getting fish that way. But I think the bite where we're using the bottom bouncers like we did the video on, Brad, and we talked about in Fall Transition, I think that bite is just about done.
It is just about done. I wasn't out last week, but I had some buddies that were out. Good sticks, too. They know what they're doing. And they said it shut down.
Yeah.
And they went out to some of the deeper flats or deeper holes where these fish are staged. They said they were loaded up. Started doing, like we talked about, doing some puppet minnows and jigging wraps and things like that. And they ended up getting 4 fish in about an hour and a half. They said it was still pretty slow. Now, I don't know. I don't know what else they did, but they just said that they are starting to see them move. So we're getting close. Mm-hmm. We're definitely getting close to where we're going to have a true fall bite. But what's good about this time of year, it can be tough this time of year when there's kind of that transition, but it also starts to open up some of the shore fishermen too, to be able to start catching fish. It does.
Yeah, a lot of times the fish, they're going to start coming in shallow at night, chasing bait fish, whatever the forage
whatever's left, because there's a ton of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
die off.
And that's where you start to use the original
Rapala.
There we
Okay,
go.
you said it right.
There we go.
Yeah, did you forget how to say it?
No,
So you had to
I was
look at
just
us?
waiting. I figure I'll just let you guys say it for me from now on.
Good,
right?
good. Let's keep that
Let's
going.
keep it going. So you use the originals. I would put a split shot, not a big split shot, probably, and I don't even look at the size of split shots, to
Just
be
a
honest with
teeny
you guys. Well, not even super teeny, but, a little bit bigger than a BB, right?
Yeah,
Or a pellet,
that's-
about the size of a pellet.
Yeah, that's perfect size.
And you put it about a foot above your original and from shore, and you cast it out at night, and it's not a steady retrieve. You can use an erratic retrieve. Don't get too aggressive with it, but this is a great time to get yourself a giant walleye.
So you're putting that split shot on to try to help with to get it more neutrally buoyant?
Not neutral, but it slows how fast it rises, and it also helps it get down a little.
Sure.
So what it does is, what I like to do is I like to give it a jerk and then let it just sit there for
Kind
a
of
second.
like a jerkbait.
Kind of like a jerk bait, but a more of a sweep, not an erratic hard jerk, but more of a
no,
sweep.
you're right.
So I'll sweep it, and then it'll just slowly come up, and I'll sweep it again, and it'll slowly start coming up. And usually within 6 feet of shore, you'll see that white belly come rolling up from underneath it like a giant crocodile, and wham! I mean, yeah, and you're
least
off
that's
and
the
running.
plan.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
playing. And also, you'll get smallmouth. If you're in a lake with wiper, you'll get a ton of wiper. We've caught a ton of fish doing that offshore, and growing up as a kid, that's what I had, was fishing offshore. We didn't have a boat, so it's a great time. Go find riprap if you're in a reservoir or any place with a rocky shoreline.
I still like casting the shorelines, though, when we're casting it in the evening. Typically,
Sure.
is when you're going to be doing that in the evening or night.
Yep.
But I still like casting parallel to shore to the most part. Not like in a foot of water, standing right next to it and casting a foot from shore.
Right.
But casting out, so you're in that zone quite a bit
Right.
when you're coming out. So you cast it out at probably a 20-degree angle from shore.
Right. Well, and I think this is the important time of year, and I think that's the heart of this podcast is, look, some people are already in fall. We've already had our fall transition 1 and 2 podcasts where we talk about we're moving out of that late summer bite, those dog days. It's hot, it's tough. Where we're kind of moving into that time where any day you could go out there and it could be a 50 fish day because it's just on fire.
Feed time.
Yep, it's feed time, and I think the presentations are going to vary. Like every season, every time of the year, for every region that you live in, they're going to vary. And I think it's important that we go over all the different ones there may be. Right? Let's talk about all the different ways right now that you can catch them and you will be catching them.
Well,
That way you're ready to go.
Let's start off from just shore since we started that.
Sure,
So if you're
sure.
casting from shore, that's what I would be doing, is casting from shore. And I'm going to be using those original Rapalas.
Yep,
Since I said
Rapalas,
that.
excellent job.
And I
Nice work.
really like the cutter, but I also like the rogues. The Smithwick rogues
Oh, absolutely.
are just fantastic
Yep.
baits to be using.
So those are your stick bait go-tos.
That is.
Mine is a husky jerk.
You do
Rapala
like
husky
You
jerk.
like husky
But
jerks.
it's suspending, and I think that what I really love about it, it's the rattles. Suspending with rattles.
With rattles, yeah.
Kind of like the Smithwick and
Yep.
some of the others, but that's my go-to.
Yeah. Well, and I like all those. I like trolling all those. I like casting all of those. I like all of those too. And I'm the same way with you guys. The original has always been my biggest one forever. And then as I've gotten older and started to expand the stick bait
Now
arsenal,
you got a million.
now I've got a million of them, and
Nice.
it's kind of hard. But I don't nothing that's deep diving, nothing with a
no.
bill. These fish are cruising, looking for the easy meals and not very deep water.
So, and we're not talking like 5s and 7s. We're talking bigger baits.
Bigs. It's number 11.
12.
Yeah.
Yep. Big,
And
yep,
so
big ones that
bigger
you
ones,
cast out.
yeah, 6.5, 7 inches long. Three trebles on it, and I mean I think every original I have has multiple punctures from walleye teeth in it.
Yeah.
Nice. And you guys in the Midwest who have, and we have some northern lakes here with northern pike in them, but you guys in the Midwest, I mean, you guys are going to be going through northerns.
riddled.
Yeah, I mean, you're just going to be hammering northerns, maybe an occasional muskie, or the walleyes and the northerns. I mean, it's going to look like shredded cheese
Fish with
by the
teeth
end
are
of the
pretty
night.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty cool.
They're a lot cooler than fish without teeth.
Yeah.
good.
Well, I don't know. Smallmouth are pretty savage.
Yeah.
But, and those smallmouth are fun to catch, dude. I
And you know
really
what?
like
I'm
doing
a
the
big
smallies.
wiper fan too.
Yeah, and the wipers are
Okay,
pretty
I like,
good.
like fishing.
Yeah.
So talking shore at night, so we can cast crankbaits. That's a great one. But personally, my favorite is fishing live bait from shore.
I know.
So, you know, with crankbaits,
You can take the boy out of Minnesota, but you can't take the Minnesota out of the boy.
You know what, though? But he has a lot of success. I'm walking up and down the shores casting here. Mitch is standing.
and just chilling in my spot. I let them come to me.
He's got his pumpkin spice latte.
I don't know where that came from, but no, I don't.
Because it's fall, man. You're
No.
So tell him what you're doing, because I know what you're doing. But
So I like to set it up like a Lindy rig, basically like a Lindy rig. So a sliding sinker.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll go heavier so I can really chuck it out there.
but you're
kind of depending
you're
on how
looking
deep we're going.
you're looking for more of that sand to rubble, not the super riprap.
Right. Now it does only work in certain bottom types. You know, like right off a sandy point, it's ideal.
Right.
Because you know you can especially with a heavier weight, especially if it's a real shallow point that goes out quite a ways before you get to that 8, 10, 15 feet of water. You could chuck it out there with that heavy weight. Sit there. I love to use big creek chubs. Now they're hard to find in Colorado. There's a few creeks around that you can go catch them, like a lot of guys do back in the Midwest. But the biggest minnows you can find, throw them on a nice Gamakatsu, number 6 or number 4 live bait hook, and just let it sit there with the bail open.
Well, and I like how you'll sit there with the bail open, but you also, you just straight up cheap as you can your tattle. What do you use for a tattle?
Well, a lot of times whatever I can find. But what works great is just a little chunk of styrofoam off like a styrofoam cup.
Yeah, you want a little 8-ounce cups that you drink coffee out of.
Yeah, and you rip a tear in it. So as your rod's sitting there, and I like to lean it up against something. I don't even hold on to it.
Yeah.
Bail open.
So you're straight up bait from shore, casting out fishing.
I'm enjoying the evening.
Yeah.
And going after my walleyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just slip that little piece of styrofoam on the right off the tip of your rod on the line, and boom, guess when the fish takes the bait, down goes that styrofoam. Or a leaf, or a piece of paper. I promise you, somebody's left some trash probably on the shoreline.
Geez, no joke.
Anything works, but just something that you can kind of flash your headlight up on, or see in the lights surrounding the lake, and that's all it takes. And then you can see when you're getting
You
up
see
on
that baby take off, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
And you're doing this at prime fishing times.
Oh,
You're not doing it at noon usually.
No, I'm doing it. This is typically after dark.
Yeah.
Maybe set up right at dusk, but this is a late into the evening game.
Or first thing in the morning
Yeah,
when it's
early.
still dark out
when
and
it's still
sun's
dark,
not
yep.
up before
That's
sunrise.
that's when the walleye are cruising shallow.
And I think
that's when we get them.
Yeah.
I think maybe even more than the presentation. I think the important thing is this time of year is more the time of day and night that you're fishing, because I think you could go do that from shore and maybe have some success around 11, noon, 1, 2, something like that, right in the middle of the day, but probably not as much.
You're going to catch smallies, which is nothing wrong with that.
Well, if they have smallies, but you might get some northerns or perch or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Some other fish that's going to come along, be more active, unless you're, if you're in a boat and you fish during the day, then you've got a few more options, and then you've got some vertical, some, like we talked about, slabbing with spoons or glide baits or whatever. But from shore, you really need to take advantage of those prime feeding times.
Totally. And really the difference between throwing cranks is how mobile you are. A lot of guys can't get out and cruise the rocky shorelines at night and whatnot. So go ahead, go live bait. Give that a try.
It does work really well. Mm-hmm. And I know it does because he's out-caught me, I think, twice now.
Yeah.
But
And that was back in the 90s. Yeah.
Brad's left arm was in a sling.
So I do like live bait rigging a lot, but I like it when we're drifting a flat in the boat. I just don't have the patience for it. I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
But
you like to work it. You like to earn your
fish. It does work good. And I'm sitting there casting, and I'll be 100 yards down from him, and the whole time I'm casting, I'm looking back. Has he got one?
Right. Well, and remember,
you're back getting shore over there.
Yeah. And here's the other thing to remember too. What we're talking about from shore, this is also good for the rivers. This is a great time to be casting those originals or those stick baits from shore in the rivers, because those fish are coming up and they are moving up and down, and they're in there. They're starting to migrate up the rivers, and they're in there just as thick. So
Kind of the moral of the story is in the fall, they come shallow at night.
They do.
Period. You know, they do all year long, but this is just a more of a
And
prime time.
It's a really good, especially once we get into fall, really get into fall, it's a really good chance to catch a whopper. I mean, to really get a pig. So doing it now, yeah, you're going to catch, you have a good chance of really getting into the fish in an evening. And an occasional big one.
Yeah.
You know, another month and a half from now, boy, I'm telling you, you really could get some big girls.
And I think that's a perfect transition into boats. You know, I think this is where, you know, we start talking about fishing from a boat right now as you start really getting to that solid fall bite, which we know some of you are. Like, we know some of you in Canada, and the NWT championship was just in North Dakota, and it looked like those guys were freezing, you know. Mm-hmm. So obviously they're getting close to that fall bite, but if you noticed, and from everything that I saw, it looked like a lot of them were catching them jigging on the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, and so there wasn't any of those big, you know, no one was doing the big slabbing. I'm not saying no one, but, you know, from what I saw, the leaders, they weren't doing a lot of slabbing. They weren't, you know, it was jigging, you know, Berkeley Gulp or, you know, Max Scent or something like that, or live bait. So so now if you're in the boat, and I think it's a perfect concept, I guess, is that when you say they come shallow, they do come shallow, but they also come shallow out in the middle of the lake.
Oh.
So not only do they come shallow on the shore, but they can be in that first couple feet of the water column.
That's how you know.
Out in the middle.
That's why we fish from shore, because we do so much boat stuff at night.
Right.
That
you know they're there.
you on your Lowrance or your Humminbird, whatever you're using, we have Lowrance. But when you're looking at and it's not dark yet, you're a half hour from dark, and you're seeing the fish just stacked up in that 30 foot of water.
Right.
And then a half hour after dark, all the fish are gone.
Right.
Well, they're not gone. Now they're in that 4 or 5 feet of water where you're not picking them up on your depth finder. So they're cruising the basins up shallow, but they're also pushed into shore shallow. They're getting the easy fish, the easy bait fish.
Well, for those of you who fish from reservoirs like we do, and I know a lot of people are in natural lakes and they don't have the water fluctuations we have, but if you're in reservoirs, the reservoirs are about done dropping. Like, there still may be a little bit where they drop a little bit overnight, but we're not talking a foot or two overnight like we can sometimes see when it's been hot, it's August, and they're pulling them down, right? And I have noticed that in the reservoir systems, even with the dropping water, like, a lot of times the dropping water can really affect where we fish and how we fish. I mean, it can change everything you do overnight.
Well, we pay attention kind of the crop harvest. Once that's starting, they're not pulling.
They're not pulling the water, and they'll be done shutting it down. But I think what I have seen is that it really will push those fish kind of more out towards the end of the major structure, right? A big lake point. It'll push them further out, and they'll suspend more. And I think that's a perfect time to continue to go after those fish with the lead core and the crankbaits. I'll give a quick shout out to Andy. He's one of our big fans in Utah. He just got 9th place in his Walleye Classic, Fall Classic tournament. Good job, Andy.
Good job.
And he and I had a lot of correspondence back and forth before he went out there, and he was showing me some snapshots of some structure he found some fish on. And I kept telling him, I said, man, that looks like a glide bait.
Lead bite.
You know, about 25 foot was the top of the hump, about 35 to 40 around the base. He could find the fish on him. He said he went through and got a few on bottom bouncers, but he couldn't get them on anything else. So he hadn't really tried any of the other slabbing type stuff. He went back, got some slabbing stuff, got a few fish off of there. Morning of the tournament, and he ended up getting blown off that spot because of the wind, and he went to trolling crankbaits. Trolling crankbaits along
over that same spot.
Nope, on a place where the wind was blown into a kind of a wall. Spot, yeah. He said it was kind of like a wall, and he said he trolled crankbaits along there and just started picking up fish. He got 3 fish in his first pass, and
nice.
And one was over 20, and ended up getting 9th place.
Well, I didn't read that email string. Had he used lead before, or was it because some of the stuff we talked about?
Oh no, Andy's a pretty good fisherman. Andy's fished a lot of different things. Andy's one of those guys, which I think we have a lot of people that listen to this that are good fishermen. They're just, it's like they would be sitting in this room with us, right?
Sure.
They'd be sitting here going, oh man, that's a good idea. I haven't thought about that. Or, hey fellas, have you thought about this? So that's kind of how Andy is with us. Andy likes doing, he likes doing it all. He likes doing ice fishing, and he goes to a lot of different
I got to meet Andy.
Yeah,
I already like this guy.
I know.
He seems like a great
He seems like a
Andy,
great guy.
You're a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, and so he's so anyways, he knows. Andy's got a good idea what's going on. But
Sure.
he yeah, I mean, anytime any of our listeners say, "Hey, I fished this tournament. Thanks a lot, guys. I got this place or that place, or I started fishing tournaments because of what you guys have said." And we
awesome,
had a
dude.
great time.
We love that.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So I just wanted to mention that, but he did different techniques like we're talking about, because I still think I think that crankbait lead bite is still going during the day, and I really think trolling boards with those stick baits or the flicker minnow at night, 4, 5, 6 feet below the surface is still an excellent choice for catching nicer walleyes.
For sure, and that's going to go for
probably at least another month.
until the ice comes in.
Yeah, it's gonna go.
I caught my biggest walleye. It was the night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Trolling husky jerk actually. And well,
that's why you like them so much.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's exactly what I was doing. That's exactly where that fish was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You caught that. It was a 13.5 pounder, just shy of that, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was a nice fish.
Yep.
Yeah. So it made me think about it, because we've talked about this before too. Is some of our podcasts, we've had a lot of correspondence where people want to have longer podcasts, right? Because we try to typically keep it around that 20-25 mark, just so guys can listen to it while they're driving to and from work. But it's also one of those things that we've toyed with the idea of doing an hour podcast, something different outside of our normal 2-week release, something where guys can do a whole different, like a subscription base or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
We haven't even really got into it, but we've had a lot of requests. Another thing we've talked about is guys like Andy. They're all over the place. Guys that we can have on the show, like a call-in.
Yep.
So to do that in a 25-minute show is going to be tough. But to be able to do that in an hour and 20-minute show is a lot easier. So hit us up, alleyesongmail.com. If you are interested.
Alleyesonfishing@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you're not
that right.
Yeah, all eyes on fishing
send it to somebody,
at gmails.com.
To nobody.
Yeah, it's going to be some Turkish company that's going to deliver you a car.
So I think it'd be great, because I love talking to other guys about fishing. I mean, that's kind of why this all started with us.
Right.
We sit around and talk fishing all the time. Right. Well, I love the different people's perspectives, experiences. Right. I mean, funny stories. Right. It's awesome.
So yes, so if you're interested in that, send us an email, because we want to start thinking about that.
Yeah, we have the ability to do that through our podcast provider, and it would be something where we would do it maybe 60 minutes, 90 minutes, where we would talk a little bit first about what we're doing, and then talk with another person. And we all know enough people that are great fishermen, that are professional fishermen, on a level above what we do.
Sure.
And NWT fishermen and other guys that are part of Berkeley or whatever. And so that's usually the kind of people that you hear are, I'm going to see if I could get Kevias to come and talk on here. Well, that would be awesome. Sure, that'd be cool. But we want the guys that maybe say, hey, how about this? We want the normal guys, the guys that are the guys that maybe have a different take on things.
Yeah.
Maybe the guys from Canada, maybe the guys from northern New York or
Missouri,
or Missouri,
Texas.
Doesn't matter.
So that's kind of what we're thinking is. We would like to cover something like that. So let us know if you're interested in something like that. It would be something we would do in the coming months. We'd be probably, try to get it out around wintertime. And that would give us some really good in-depth stuff. And we could do product reviews and some other stuff like that, which we're trying to set up at this time as well. So.
Sure. So let's get back to the boat thing. So we're talking about fishing at night. All right. What about the guy that can't get out at night? What are we doing during the day? Right.
During the day, I'm going deep.
I am.
You got to go, and I mean, it's anywhere. And deep could be whatever it is for you, right?
Relative for that body of water.
For that body of water. But if your lake's 24 foot deep and it's a bowl lake, and we have one here in the metro area that's just like that, then I'm looking in that 24, 25 foot, wherever I can find it. Mm-hmm. If it's a deeper lake, I'm looking anywhere from 24 down to 40. And, yes, we're all aware you have to be careful of the fish coming up and their air bladders coming up and all that stuff. That is the biggest drawback to some fall fishing.
It is.
That that happens. It does. I mean, and you guys, we can't be so sensitive about, keeping walleyes and I like throwing walleyes back and all this stuff. There's a lot of fish in a lot of lakes, and sometimes stuff happens with them. And
and we're big into conservation of walleyes.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
But things are going to happen.
It's going to happen.
So,
and there's not much you can do, and it's not a reason to not go fish in the fall. Is what I'm saying.
And if you end up let's say you're slabbing and you're catching fish in that 40 foot of water. Just take your time with them.
Yeah.
Take your time with them. Let them get adjusted while they're coming up.
Well, and if you fizz them, it'll help. And if the bladder comes up through the mouth, if you poke the bladder, it'll suck right back down inside of them. I mean, there's ways to deal with the fish that aren't, that's not going to let them go belly up and they'll just float there and die. That's not what we do. That's not what any of us want to do. But sometimes it's like hooking them deep, right? Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
And,
That sucks too, but it is what it is.
So,
the whole key is bringing them up slow. I mean,
is.
if you make a mistake and all of a sudden the first one you catch and you're jigging deep or whatever, and the air bladder pops out, the next one, take it up even slower.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of times they're just fine.
Yeah.
That's kind of my key.
And be fast with them. Once you get them up, once they're out of the water, get them unhooked and get them back in. Don't play picture games. Don't do all that stuff. Get them back in. And off they go.
Let them get themselves.
Yeah, they'll get themselves down real quick, and don't set them in the water. Another good example is you don't set them in the water. You nosedive them in the water.
Spear them into the water.
Seriously,
you do. You spear them in the water.
It gets them that first 5-6
shock,
feet,
and they're down and they're on their way, and that'll a lot of times help. So if you lay them in the water, they're going to have a harder time.
Oh yeah.
So,
I love my new hat I'm wearing.
I was just going to say that. You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So we surprised Mitch with one of our new hats.
Yeah,
and he's
awesome.
like, "This is awesome."
Great.
I gave it to him last week, and he's like, "Yeah, this is pretty cool."
Yeah.
And when he showed up tonight to do this podcast, I was like, "Yeah."
Rolling into Walleye one with some gear on.
With some gear on, yeah. Well, and we've tried a few different people that give us to produce hats for us, and Mitch has got a pretty keen eye, so he hasn't been too impressed yet. So the fact that he's got this one on and a big smile, that is a win for us.
Go and check out our stuff because, and here's another thing. We have got a lot of orders lately, and it takes us a good week or two to get it. We're not just sitting there with a warehouse of stuff. So we will get it to you.
Please just be patient.
We're not really an apparel company. Yeah. We're some dudes that fish and talk about it, and we sell apparel on the side.
Because a ton of people ask for it, so we're like, here it is. And now it just keeps going and going, but it's kind of cool. It's fun.
It is cool.
What's cool is when you get people sending pictures to us too. And they got our gear on, or they got one of this decals on their boats or their trucks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is way cool. So go to the website, continue to support us. All those that have supported us, we thank you, and we do our best to get it out as fast as I can. Trust me, we everything is custom made. So when you send us the order, we order the clothing, we put it together, and then we send it off. So everything is done, personally by us. So we don't send it to China or something like that. So anyways, thanks everybody for doing that, and continue to go look. I mean, that's how we made Walleye One. Is we
got a studio now.
We got a studio now.
It used to be a shed.
People are picturing this new build.
It's a 6x9 tough shed.
In Brad's backyard. Just don't tell anybody.
Yeah, but it does work pretty good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So hey, thanks guys for supporting us. Have a great night.
This has been All Eyes on Fishing. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next time, where we discuss all of your favorite fishing topics. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out our videos on YouTube, or read our blog at alleyesonfishing.com. All Eyes on Fishing, leading you to the next level.